What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to discuss if the next game that Ben's studio is making is Days Gone 2. Now, I very quickly just want to say at the beginning of this video that I'm recording this less than 2 days after I had hernia surgery, so if my voice doesn't sound as enthusiastic and I'm kind of talking lower than I normally do, that is the reason why. But I want to jump right into this video. So we got word in terms of my time. I'm recording this like a week before you guys are seeing this. A few days ago, my time, we heard word that Ben Studio, or Sony Ben, I like to call him Sony Ben. I believe they changed their name to reverse that name. They are entering pre-production on their next game, and that's awesome news. And really, what I want to talk about in this video is, well, is it Days Gone 2? But also, what the heck happened to the Days Gone DLC, the story DLC that was supposed to come out? Now, I haven't looked into this on my own separately. Maybe you guys can fill in the blanks here, but just so like little as a month ago, back when Sony had their State of Play, I made a video talking about could we get the DLC trailer, could we get a release date for the DLC at State of Play? And time has come and gone, and to my knowledge, there's been literally nothing on this. Now, I never expected this DLC, or, recently, I haven't expected this DLC in 2019. I think that with the DLCs, that a game like Days Gone, or even like Kingdom Hearts, you see Kingdom Hearts taking their sweet time with the Remind DLC, but it really seems like, this is like a year thing. It takes like a year or so to get these things cranking, to get these things out, and that's totally fine. So yeah, I didn't expect a DLC story, and am I really, am I pacing in my room back and forth saying, oh man, I can't wait to play the DLC? I still have to beat Days Gone. I still have to actually experience it because I stopped pretty early into that game just because I got so busy. So I wasn't expecting the DLC for this until, March or April, again, to kind of line up with the 1 year of Days Gone. But this thing, or this rumor, this is pre-production to their next game. And quite honestly, and in my opinion, I really do believe it's Days Gone 2. When Days Gone came out, Tyler and I had a community series, and we talked all about the game in multiple videos on the channel. And one of the things we talked about is, like, should they be given the chance to make a Days Gone 2? And my stance on it has always been the same. And so I'm going to kind of recap what I said in those is absolutely yes. I think that they deserve it. I think that, yeah, it wasn't received all the best. It was one of the first Sony exclusive games in the past half a decade that really stumbled, I would say. It wasn't a complete failure. It wasn't an awful game. I actually think it was a very solid game. I think a lot of people really loved the game for sure. But it was a game, critically it got in the 7 to 8 range, and even fans was like, okay, like, I see what they're trying to do, but this is not the best game I've played. This isn't the best open world game. This isn't the best zombie game. So really, I'd say across the board, there are outliers. I mean, there's some people that hate this game, and there's some people that really love this game or love specific mechanics. I'll still go on Twitter sometimes and see people say, like, this is the best, like, open world weather mechanics I've ever seen, stuff like that. So there are still people that say some really high up there things about this game, and where I stand on it is the game has a lot of potential, and it still does. I actually said that before the game came out, and funny enough, I'm saying it again after. But what I mean is what they're trying to do, this open world, this zombie post-apocalyptic world, they have a lot there. And even if you look at it from like a technical standpoint, it would be a lot harder, and it's going to take them a whole lot more time if they're going to kind of put that idea down and just make something completely new as their next game. You want them, they're a Sony first-party studio. They're a studio that Sony owns, and they make games only for PlayStation. So when it comes to PS5, you want quick turnaround. And from Sony, I know they're the kind of company that lets developers take their time, and I don't think they're going to make anybody rush anything. I do believe, they're cool with that, but that they do at the same time are like, okay, like we're going to need games. The PS5 is going to come out. They're going to want Spider-Man 2, Horizon Zero Dawn 2, God of War 2, a lot of these 2 games. They're going to want these games to come out sooner rather than later. You can't have a game, or you don't want a lot of your games to come out like in year 2, year 3 of the PlayStation, because then what comes out in year 1? I know they probably have plans, but my point is, I'm sure with Sony Ben, and we see how long it took them. I mean, they made Uncharted Golden Abyss and they jumped to Days Gone. It took them a very, very long time. I think it was like warranted. I think it was fine. I think it was cool. And like it's no big deal. And I think Sony sees that too, that it took them so long to make Days Gone. Because again, when you make the jump that they made, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of time, and it's an unknown territory. And that's another thing. Like Days Gone, I think for what it is, it's a very, very solid game, but it's a game with loads of potential. I think that there was a lot of criticism that they can look at and say, hey, it's not people hating on our game. It's not people like screaming at us and like wanting to come to the studio to attack us. These are people that care about the game. These are people that like want the game to be really, really good and be up to the level of Horizon and Spider-Man and any other open world game or just any game in general. I wanted Days Gone to be very, very good. I don't think we got that, but what we got was a very solid game, and I think we got a lot of room for improvement that I think a lot of us have spoken about. And I think Ben's studio, I think they've seen those things, and I think they're going to implement them in their future games. So when it comes to this next game, I truly, truly believe, I believed it back in April, and the sales for Days Gone did really, really well as well. I mean, the game sold, it wasn't the 10, 15 million unit seller that Uncharted or God of War or Spider-Man or The Last of Us, it wasn't that. But the game sold, I believe it sold 5, 6 million copies. Very, very, very good for a brand new game. In fact, one of the higher selling new IPs Sony's ever done. It did really, really good overseas. Which is kind of surprising. A lot of people did not expect that, but the game, you have to kind of dig for it. Sony really didn't say all that much about the sales of Days Gone, but when you look at what the game did in terms of sales, the game did, I think, above expectations. As long as Sony's expectations weren't wild, I think the game did rather good. And so you look at it and you say, okay, the game, I think, performed sales-wise probably better than they thought, considering the game was not this 10 out of 10 game. It's not a reason to get the PS4. It's not a game that everybody is going online and saying, game of the year. It's not a game that's got the greatest word of mouth. It did have solid word of mouth, but it didn't have the greatest. And it still sold pretty darn good for a studio, again, that made a huge jump from the PlayStation Vita to the PS4. So you had all of those things kind of working against you, and you had all of those challenges, and for what it's worth, they came out pretty solid on the other end. So you look at that and you say, okay, do you then say, all right, go ahead, you clearly want this to be more. You're not going to make one game, or you didn't set out, and I know sometimes game developers will say that like maybe they only intended for it to be one game, or it's fine if it was one game. But again, you look at it, you look at the assets, you look at the engine they used, you look at all the mechanics that they built literally for this game. You'd have to trash a lot of those or majorly change a lot of those if you wanted to make a completely brand new game going forward. Or you could take a very, very solid premise. You could take a lot of the feedback that people gave you, and you could take, what you already probably wanted to do more of, and you can make a second game. And I honestly feel like that's the logical way of going about this. I think that's like the only way. I mean, you could have them again take another 5 years to completely build a brand new game, which again may also hit or miss. It doesn't have to be just because if say they dump Days Gone, they want to make a brand new game again. That doesn't mean that that game is going to be successful. That game could actually also be a failure. So you have to be careful. And I think, again, everything's kind of laid out. You just take the criticism that people gave you, constructive criticism, and you just make this game a little bit better. And I think going into the PS5 with the property, Days Gone is already its own name now. It's already its own property. The world is already its own thing. The way they did the zombies and the infection, all that stuff, all of that stuff, the way they did the motorcycle, it's already there. So now you just take that, you improve it, and you say, hey, Days Gone 2, PS5, and that way it's only a couple years away. You don't want this, again, they're not going to rush them, and I don't want them to rush. I don't want this game coming out like next year or something. I want them to take just as long as they want to do it, but at the same time, they probably want it to come out within the first couple years of the PS5. I get that Days Gone just came out last year, but still, that kind of sets it up. If it takes them even 3 years, it sets it up to be within the first 2 years of the PS5, which I think is very, very solid. I think it needs to come out around the time, a little bit after, but still around the time that the God of War, and I really do see, like, I was gonna say like Spider-Man and stuff. I do see Days Gone being that game, and it kind of was in the PS4's life cycle as kind of that filler. It was kind of like the filler between God of War, between Spider-Man, and then that was the beginning of it. Then you had Days Gone, and Days Gone was kind of intended to get us through until The Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima. To be honest, with the way that these studios are staggered and the way that they're making games now, some studios are also making more than one game at the same time. But you look at it, and I honestly could see like a Days Gone 2 being the same kind of situation where they're using it to kind of stagger or to be in between God of War 2 and Spider-Man 2, and then maybe it's right before, maybe they're having a studio make like a new Uncharted or something, and it's before that. So I honestly see it as this. I don't think it's going to be a game that drives the whole year. I don't think it's going to be a game that drives the PS5. I don't think you'll ever going to see Days Gone 2 sell like 20 million copies, be one of the greatest PlayStation exclusives of the console generation. I don't think it's going to be that, but that doesn't mean that Sony Bend isn't talented. That doesn't mean that they can't make really, really good games. I think they have something with Days Gone, and I want to see it continued with a Days Gone 2. So I think this pre-production game, whatever they're going into, I honestly do believe that's Days Gone 2 and not a brand new game. But guys, let us know in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think that they could be making a Days Gone 2? Do you think it could be a brand new game? Let me know. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit that bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And thank you, as always, thank you for putting up with my, less than enthusiastic voice. I'm getting better every single day, so hopefully, the videos will improve in terms of my voice quality over the next couple days. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you all on the next video.